Hello, and thank you for joining me for this special presentation of Tired of the Crud Sports Radio. My name, Dave Brady, and today we are going to be talking in the first part of a 10-part series on ridiculousness in sports. And as I go through here, we're going to have special topics on, things in sports and the world of sports that are just stupid. And, you can't fix stupid. You just can't figure out how to change people who don't know what they're doing and who continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So, it's a special topic. We're going to have a 10-part series here, and the first installment is going to be about the good franchises in the NFL versus the franchises, quite frankly, that suck. And today's expose is going to be featuring why are the New England Patriots so good? But we're going to be talking more about why teams like the Redskins stink. And so we'll go into a brief break here and be back in just a moment. All right, welcome back. Okay, we could probably lump 7 or 8 NFL teams in with the Redskins. The New England Patriots stand alone by themselves. They have some companions in the upper echelons of sports, but it's teams like the Redskins and the Browns and the Lions and the Jaguars and the Vikings and the Chargers and who else? The Buccaneers. Teams that have never won a championship, Houston, that are probably never going to win one. But I think that the Washington Redskins are a unique situation in professional sports, because the bottom line here is that, and I've been looking for an opportunity to take a shot at Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder is, I've heard both ends of the spectrum on this guy, that he's a classy guy and the guy has no class at all, okay? But I've got a lot of insider information on the Skins and why they've been garbage since he's owned this team since, what was it, 1995? Something like that. 1997. He's had the helm of the Redskins for the last 20 years. And why does it seem like every year the Patriots go out and it's the same thing year in and year out? And they look good no matter what they do, no matter who's on the roster. And there's teams like the Redskins who every single season, year in and year out, they look like a dumpster fire. They look like a garbage bin every week, week in and week out. Okay, now I'll say this. What makes this extra funny is the fact that I'm a Redskins fan, but I'm an honest Redskins fan, okay? So, what I'm telling you, and I had to adopt New England and Green Bay and Pittsburgh as secondary teams because you just can't get excited about the NFL when you're a Redskins fan. So, because the way it used to be is when they were good back in the 80s and the early 90s was, when the season was over with, your heart just panged and panged and panged for 8 months, waiting, praying to God the football season would come back so that you could see your burgundy and gold Redskins kicking butt on national television, and guess what? Those days are gone. You know why? Because you're happy when the season is over for the last 20 years. You're happy when the season is over. You don't want to watch the games. There's nothing to get excited about with the Redskins. Nothing. As opposed to New England. With New England, heck, they don't care about the offseason at all, because those fans, they know that they're just going to get to the AFC Championship game every year, and the only question is whether they'll win another title or not. So what I did was I went to the D.C. area, and my girl and I, we went out and we bought property We bought property in the D.C. area, bought 30 acres of land, right? And we got a bunch of construction equipment. We dug a big hole. We said, hey, we're going to make this a landfill. And then somebody came up to me and said, so what are you going to call your land? What are you going to call your business? I said, I'm going to call it Redskins Park because the Redskins are trash, okay? Every week in and week out, it is the same shoddy offense, the same shoddy defense, and nothing ever seems to change with the freaking Washington Redskins. Did you know that Tom Brady was not only a 6th round pick, but the Patriots had their 6th round pick. Plus, they had 2 compensatory picks in that year's draft. And do you know that Brady wasn't the first compensatory pick? He was the second compensatory pick. So they had 3 6th-round picks in that year of the draft, and they took a risk on Brady with the 3rd one. But that's not the whole story. No matter who the Pats bring in, no matter who they draft, no matter who they sign as free agents, no matter who they bring in as a free agent, undrafted free agent, draft pick, free agent, everything the Patriots do is right and correct. Everything Dan Snyder does is wrong. Now here's the thing. He's really good at fooling the fans of the Skins into thinking that he and the organization have changed. Let me tell you why it hasn't and why it won't until as long as that man is alive. Okay. Now, what's going to be great about this broadcast is the fact that I'm not going to be taking shots per se at Dan Snyder. I am going to tell you the truth about him. And I'm going to do it in a reasonably decent, polite manner. But it's still going to be so incendiary that it's going to make you laugh because stupid is just stupid. Okay, first of all, Bill Belichick is a genius, okay? And all the coaches that he hires go under his wing and he teaches them how to make sense. And Bill Belichick is also smart. He doesn't let any of his people go to teams like the Redskins. He wants his people to succeed, right? Okay, so here's the deal. Washington has never taken one person from the front office of any team that's any good. And the one guy that they did take, Scott McCloughan, who got his start with the Packers, had been with 3 other teams and turned into a total drunk over the span of 15 years. So what does Snyder do? He goes and he hires this guy. Because Snyder's got a reputation in the NFL. Snyder's reputation is running people out of town. I'll show you how backwards Snyder is. So he goes and he hires a drunk to be his general manager. And then he fires him a year and a half later. Now, how is Dan Snyder, who has made, let's just say, for point of reference, 300 decisions since he's been the owner of the team in the last 20 years, as far as personnel and coaching, etc. is concerned? Well, if he's made 300 decisions, he screwed up on all 300 of them. And when that is your track record, then who are you to fire somebody else when you're the one that sucks? How do you, when you suck, make the decision to fire somebody else when you're the one that's the worst, the biggest suck of them all? So you had the situation back, what was it? Probably 8 or 9 years ago. The Redskins had these 3 picks in the second round of the draft that were every other pick. They had a pick, and then somebody else had a pick, and then the Skins had a pick, and then somebody else had a pick, and then the Skins had a pick. Here is what is devastatingly honest about the Redskins. They took Malcolm freaking Kelly, a receiver out of Oklahoma. Then somebody else had a pick. With their next pick, the Redskins take Devin freaking Thomas, the wide receiver out of Michigan State. Then somebody else had a pick, namely the Green Bay Packers, who took Jordy freaking Nelson, who is one of the best, most elite receivers in the NFL right now. And then the next pick was the Redskins taking Fred Davis, USC tight end. All three of which turned out to be colossal flops. Because the people that Dan Snyder hires, he doesn't listen to. His training staff, his medical people, his specialists all said, don't take Kelly. He's an injury risk. He has tons of injuries in college. Dan Snyder takes him anyway. Devin Thomas. Don't go after Devin Thomas. He had one good year. Came out as a junior. He had one good year as a receiver with Michigan State. Did nothing his freshman and sophomore year. Dan Snyder takes him with the next pick. And then, coming to Fred Davis, his people said, guy's got an attitude, he doesn't work hard, doesn't love the game. Guess what? Snyder takes him anyway over Jordy freaking Nelson. Morgan Moses, the biggest dope ever to play in the NFL. This last year's draft, Niles Paul. The list could go on of guys who have no business being on a pro football field that the Redskins take because everybody else passes over them either because of injury issues, attitude issues, or character issues. And all you ever hear the Redskins say when the next year is coming along is, we're looking for character guys. Well, then why don't they take some of them? Why don't they take some of these character guys that they talk about going and getting? I am curious about this. Highly curious about this. Leading to my next point. Let's compare New England versus Washington again. Washington puts its better players in as their backups because all Dan Snyder cares about is promoting his starters, his elite players, his big contract guys. So why is it that the Redskins beat the Seattle Seahawks with 4 out of 5 backup offensive linemen at Seattle and turn around the next week with 4 of their 5 starters back on the offensive line and they get their butts kicked by Minnesota at home? Because the Redskins put their guys on the field that they think make the most money for the team. Not who the best players are, not who the hungriest players are, but they're players that make the owner the most money. So they lose. Case in point, I was in the D.C. area about, 5 or 6 years ago. And I was astonished as I was walking by the window of a company called Hibbett Sports in the FSK Mall in Frederick, Maryland. And I couldn't figure out why they had a jersey for Bakari Rambo up available in the window. I believe he wore 36. I could be mistaken about that. But either way, they had a jersey for Bakari Rambo in the window. So I asked the guy how much he was selling it for. He said $350. And so I'm like, my first question to this cat is, why is Dan Snyder making Bakari Rambo jerseys when he's a backup safety that never plays? And why is he trying to sell it for $350? He says, that's real simple. He says, I have friends within the organization who told me, point blank, the only reason why the Redskins drafted Bakari Rambo was because Snyder wanted to be able to put the name Rambo on the back of a Redskins jersey because it was like the Stallone character in the Rambo movies. He thought he'd be able to market having that name on the back of a jersey. So the only reason why he drafts this guy is because he has an exotic sounding first name in Bakari, but his last name is Rambo, like the movie. And so he takes this guy, puts his name on the back of a jersey, and jacks the price up $200 to $350. This is the kind of organization that the Redskins are. And when you have an owner who is exclusively interested in making money and nothing else, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have second-tier players on the team when the backups are actually your best players. And here is one of my final points. The Patriots starters change on a weekly basis. It's whoever on earth puts in the effort that week in practice. Bill Belichick benches guys all the time. He says, you're only a starter as long as you put forth the effort in practice. The Redskins backups never play. And here is the big thing. With New England, Bill Belichick only goes after guys who have heart, who have a hunger for the game, who put in the effort, and who give 100% all the time. You can look this up if you want to. CSN Washington, a local Comcast website that covers the Washington Redskins, the Washington Wizards, the Washington Nationals, and the Washington Capitals, who, by the way, are all garbage too. They all play great during the regular season, but when the finals come around, they get swiped out in the first round of the playoffs because they've got no jewel fortitude. DJ Swearinger and Josh Norman are both quoted as saying in the Comcast Washington that the reason why the Redskins lost to the Vikings, the reason why they let a journeyman quarterback rip them apart for 42 points is because they didn't put forth the effort. They slacked off. The guys lost their edge because they went and beat a great Seattle Seahawks team at Seattle and right away resting in their laurels. So you now have this admission coming from the two biggest leaders on the Redskins defense, DJ Swearinger and Josh Norman, who do not care what the owner thinks about them. But let me go even further. Not just bashing Dan Snyder. How's about Jay Gruden? You know what? I thought when Jay Gruden first became the coach of the Redskins that here was a guy who wasn't going to worry about politics, wasn't going to worry about what the roster looks like, wasn't going to worry about what neighborhood this guy is from. Just take the right players like New England does. They don't care what anybody thinks about them. Why do they win all the time? They don't worry about politics. Okay. The Redskins go and hire Jay Gruden to be their coach. And let me tell you what I think. Why has the culture not changed with the Redskins? Why has the culture not changed with the Browns? Why are these bad teams perpetually bad all the time? Why does it always look like they spend all these hours getting ready and they always look like crap come Sunday? Why does it always seem like everything that New England and the Colts, for the most part, and the Steelers, and the good teams, Denver, the Seahawks, why does it always seem like the good teams, everything is easy for them, and why the teams like the Redskins and the Browns and the Lions, who you can just scratch off the list of Super Bowl contenders, along with Jacksonville, the Chargers are never going to get there, and neither is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Jacksonville Jaguars, or the Dolphins for that matter. The reason why Jay Gruden signed to be the head coach of the Redskins? Do you think he gave a rat's butt about the Redskins organization before he became their head coach? No. The man came to Washington for the very reason every other schmuck comes to the Redskins, because he wants some of Dan Snyder's money. I think the Redskins right now are just as bad after 2 years of having Gruden at the helm as they were when he got there. And what happens with Terrell Pryor? And what happens with Josh Doxson? What happens with so many of these guys? They go after these guys because of speed and athleticism. And what happens with it? Nothing happens with it. But yet guys like Jordy Nelson, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, Thielen from the Minnesota Vikings, all these guys come in the NFL. Nobody gives them a chance to do anything. Bill Belichick takes these guys in and turns them into stars. Because speed and athleticism is not all that is necessary to play in the NFL. It's not. Because the Packers and the Patriots rosters are loaded with guys that can't run the 40 in 4.3 seconds. I got news for you. There's a lot of guys in the NFL who are drafted because they're incredibly fast. Have you heard from them lately? No. Because speed is fleeting. There's all kinds of ways to defend speed. The defense is, the corner hands the guy off to the safety all the time. That negates whatever speed he has. and then the other guy takes over and covers them. And their careers, take Aldrick Robinson, for instance, a guy the Redskins drafted and then got rid of after 3 or 4 years, went to Atlanta, did nothing. Okay, Aldrick Robinson's an incredibly fast guy that can't get open in the NFL. But yet, you've got guys like Cole Beasley. You got guys like Julian Edelman. You got guys like Thielen who can get open like crazy. Because it's not all about speed. Yes, there's certain routes that require a lot of speed from the X or the Z position. But you don't run those routes on every play. So why is speed the premium when it comes to football evaluation in the NFL? Getting open in the NFL has got to do with quickness, which is not straight ahead speed. Lots of guys have that. Route running ability, which most of these speed guys don't work on anyway, because they're speed guys, and finding the gaps in the defense. Why do you think Jason Witten's so good? Why do you think he's lasted as long as he has? The guy, Thomas, the tight end in Denver, why do you think he's so good? Why do you think Antonio Brown is so good? Because they understand they have the speed. Demaryius Thomas. Why do certain guys, think about Anthony Gonzalez, think about guys who played in the NFL, some who had speed and some that didn't, that were excellent players because they understood that there was more to do with playing football than just speed. But see, teams like the Redskins think that that's all that matters, because that's what a marketer like Snyder thinks. Snyder talks about emulating the Patriots. The Browns talk about emulating the Patriots. How do they emulate them? How do they emulate them? How, in 15 years of Brady's career, do the Redskins look anything remotely close to the New England Patriots? Or the Seattle Seahawks? Look at the Seattle defensive line. You can compare the 4 guys who rush the passer on the Seattle Seahawks defensive line. They're quick, they're fast, they're sleek, they're athletes, they're warriors. The Redskins' defensive line looks like a bunch of guys who go around in the garbage truck and pick up your dumpsters once a week. Chris Baker? Are you kidding me? That guy was a freaking joke. And the Redskins, that was one of their finds. Lastly, the reason why the Redskins haven't changed is because even as Dan Snyder does delegate some authority to a general manager and other people in that organization, he's going to hire the same guys that he is. He's going to hire people who are like-minded, whether he realizes it or not. Bruce Allen is a yes man. And their front office, Scott Campbell, and any other clowns that evaluate talent on that team, they talk about that they're respected across the NFL. Well, if they're so respected around the NFL, then why don't they win any games? Why do they keep bringing the same crap in during the draft and free agency every year? The bottom line is this. In order for the Redskins to change and the Browns to change, you got to bring in new ownership. It's up to me. You're never going to get an ad campaign to rob Robert Kraft out of town. Why would you? But if the Redskins fans and Browns fans and Jacksonville Jaguars fans and Dolphins fans and all these cruddy bottom men trash dump teams want to improve, you got to start boycotting the team. Stop watching the games, stop buying merchandise, take away the money from this money-grubbing, money-first idiot Dan Snyder. And hopefully within 15 years, you'll have run him out of town. There's no other choice. The Redskins are going to be a bad team for the foreseeable future. And New England, and teams like New England, Green Bay, Denver, Elway, the Cowboys. Yeah, the Cowboys have Jerry Jones, but that's a different story. He's not the only voice on that team. He has conceded some over the last 15 years. He's made a lot more progress than Dan Snyder ever will. Because his son is involved with the operation. His son's basically the general manager now. So, I think this presentation has encompassed a lot of incredibly valid points. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the possibility of tens of thousands of football fans listening to this broadcast to find out just exactly what kind of trash dump the Redskins and other bad teams in the NFL are and why the Patriots are so good. Bottom line, the Patriots bring in whomever they wish. They bring in hungry guys, they bring in character guys. And that's why they win. They don't give two rat flips what anybody thinks about them, what anybody is going to say about them in the media. And that's all there is to it. They put the right guys on the field week in and week out. And if you don't perform in practice, you get benched that Sunday. Redskins, teams like that don't do that. They've got their guys who expect to start. They hardly ever rotate their guys out. A team that wants to win keeps their guys fresh. The Redskins keep their starters on the field until they get tired, because those are the guys getting paid. It's not about winning the football game to Snyder. It is about the way he thinks. The way he thinks is just about money. And any way, shape, or form has to do with money. When you pay these guys all this money, you've got to have them out on the field for it to be worth your dollar. No, Dan Snyder, if your guy isn't performing this week, you put him on the bench, let the younger, hungrier, underpaid guy play, and then make that rich, overpaid athlete hungry for the next week. Because if you bench him, he'll get motivated and he'll give you his effort the next time. That's the way it works, you idiot. And that's all we have for now. So thank you for joining me for this special Topics and Tired of the Crud Sports Radio, and you have a great day.